participants, high-level participants of this special occasion in the sense that we are going to, as the United Nations turns 75, we look forward to something that is unique for Africa, and that is the formal inauguration of the Center for Transformative Advancement of Development in Africa, CITADA. And we'd like to use the opportunity to thank Gregory University for hosting this center, and as well as the Barrister Juni and Ari Menakaya Foundation International and the Center for Sustainable Development Goals, Global Education in the United States of America. We also want to thank in a special way the United Nations General Assembly for approving this inaugural center. I must tell you that I would like to do a recap of a nursery rhyme of yore. That nursery rhyme says, "The day is bright and fair. Oh, happy day. The day is bright and fair. Oh, happy day of joy." It's a joyous moment for Africa, it's a joyous moment for Nigeria, it's a joyous moment for the global world. For the first time in the history, that this, in view of the call to action by the United Nations Secretary General Antonio, that all sectors of society to commit in mobilizing a decade for action, a decade from 2020 to 2030. And this center is very unique. It is a center for professional development, a center for offering an executive program for the purpose of enabling the vision of CITADA being focused in the energizing a response to the global impact for Africa. And I must tell you that this is just the inaugural ceremony. The Chancellor's speech is very apt, but I'm aware of the fact that Gregory University Utru has put in place the structure has been put in place to ensure that the smooth take-off of this center. I must in a special way also thank Dr. Ada. Dr. Ada has been very wonderful, our global director, who has, spearheaded this affair. I know that 3.5 hours or 3 hours today is really going to be inspiring, it's going to be exciting. So as all of us sit down to listen to the high-level conversation and discussion, delivery of good messages and all that, I think the sky is indeed the limit for us. So without much ado, I would like to invite in the program. I know the Honourable Minister is still waiting to come in because he'll be talking about the new normal and the future of education in Nigeria.
Honourable Minister is in. Is he
here now?
Yes.
The Honourable Minister is here now.
Yeah.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, the Nigeria is hosting this place, this center, and the Honourable Minister, we are privileged to have Honourable Minister of State Education, Honorable Chukwuemeka Nwajuba. He has a PhD in law, I expect you to note, and a highly cerebral, personable, reliable, and likable young man who has really, since he came into saddle with his colleague, Malam Adama, they have really turned the education ministry on the path to greatness. I think without much ado, can I, as a member of the panelists, invite the Honourable Minister of State for Education, Honourable Chukwuemeka Nwajuba, you have the floor as a special guest, and he'll be speaking on the new normal and the future of education in Nigeria. Honourable Minister, sir.
Yeah, waiting, yeah.
Unfortunately, the connection is lost with the Honourable Minister. I can note it on the there. The connection is
The
lost.
connection is lost. Okay.
Yeah, so you may need
Why we wait for the Honourable Minister to come in? There's no cast in stone about this. Can we invite His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Arikana, to also give us a keynote presentation on the future we want, reaffirming collective commitment to the advancement of development for Africa. His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Arikana is the former ambassador of our African Union to the United States of America. You have the floor, Your Excellency. Ambassador Arikana, Dr. Arikana, Jombori, Kwai. Are we there for Her Excellency Ambassador Arikana, the former ambassador of the African Union to the United States of America? Check. Ambassador Arikana, is she on the floor there?
Please, she's not yet on the floor.
Okay, can we, on the same note, let's invite His Excellency Ambassador Dennis, the former Vice President of UNGA 69 session. Ambassador Dennis Antoine, the former Vice President of United Nations General Assembly during the 69 session. Can we have him on the floor as he will be speaking on the affirming of development for Africa? Your Excellency, sir. Ambassador
Good night and good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Reaffirming our collective commitment means that we have been committed and we are reaffirming. Now, being born outside of the continent of Africa, but Africa was born in me. It is a special privilege to be associated with champions for positive change, such illustrious intellectuals sitting on this panel today. Now, one of the best compliments I have had is one day when I was crossing the street in Brooklyn, New York, someone called out to me and asked, "Hey, what part of Nigeria are you from?" I stopped in my tracks and I went back to that person because it affirmed my African heritage. The person asked me, "Where in Africa were you born?" I said, "Wow. But I am from the African country Grenada in the Caribbean." Now, all sectors of our global village, that is our societies, are being called upon to remain committed to global action, to secure strong leadership, more resources, smarter solutions for the achievement of sustainable development goals. They're calling upon local action. Now remember, the Sustainable Development Goals are not UN goals. They were not made for the books that are put on your shelves. They are for harmonizing our local agendas So local action is summoned to deepen changes in policy, budget, institutional infrastructure, and regulatory frameworks, good governance on the national, cities, local authorities. Good governance is required to stimulate action by the people. Now, this call to action must include engagement of our youth, because the record would show that Africa is a youthful continent. Now, civil society, the media, private sector, unions, and all other stakeholders are called upon to generate an unstoppable movement as we push forward. Now, in response to the call to achieve the required transformation, the Gregory University Utara Abia State, the Bad Juni and Irene Menakaya Foundation International, and the Center for the SDG Global Education USA have answered the clarion call to action through the establishment of the Center for Transformative Advancement of Development in Africa. Now, CITADA, as we are going to call it, we join the global community to mobilize for a decade of action in generating unstoppable movement for the desired outcomes. However, the global pandemic ushers in a new urgency for global collaboration in order to realize advancement of transformative development in Africa. There must be sustained, realized advancement of transformation. There must be professional improvement and competence to engage efficiently and effectively in order to generate solutions for multidimensional challenges. Now, the Center for Transformative Advancement of Development in Africa is a professional development epicenter offering executive education programs for the purpose of enhancing sustainable transformation and progression of development in Africa. The center is a direct response to global impact on Africa, aimed at supporting the progress by bridging the gap between Africa and its diaspora, by plugging into the African power source, which we called the African diaspora. The vision is to contribute to professional expansion and knowledge production by inspiring young leaders for a new Africa. Now, CITADA, the center, acknowledges the strength of the principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion necessary to build and sustain communities that embrace shared values, identifies a fresh perspective leading to the sense of belonging for the future we want for Africa. These are the ideals of university. Now, I'm reminded that Sheikh is a Senegalese scholar. He said, and I quote, "The essential thing for people is to discover the thread that connects them to their most remote ancestral past." In the face of cultural aggression of all sorts. Now, this fact alone compels Africans to connect, Africans on the continent and in the diaspora, to improve relationships Now, Ante Diop went on to say, a people without a historical conscience is a population. Today, I say, we need managed approach to reclaim the cultural conscience and profit from the rich African cultural diversity which Africa is endowed with. Now, this center will work to uphold values and principles at Gregory University. Now, remember that the Center for SDG Global Education USA and the Bar Juni and the Aaron McAnder Foundation, the centers will serve as a catalyst for increased training, for deepening understanding, providing a platform for learning, transformation, and development with the goals of maintaining inclusive professional development and innovation. The center will partner with leading organizations and scholars to offer preparation for professional certification and development programs. The center will undertake and contribute to local, regional, and global competencies by contributing to learning frameworks aligned to the current UN Development 2030 Agenda and the African Agenda 2063. The population of sub-Saharan Africa is likely to double by 2050. The widespread usage of digital technology in sub-Saharan Africa is an essential phenomenon today that fosters productivity in the digital economy and integrates markets of that region. However, there is more digital handset telephones than there is electricity. The opportunities for broadening development in sub-Saharan Africa is broad. Now, it is predicted that by 2025, there will be more than 600 million mobile subscribers in sub-Saharan Africa. That is about 50% of the total population will be connected to mobile usage in sub-Saharan. Now, the economists found that while less than half the population has access to electricity, 2/3 own a mobile phone. Let's think about this for a moment. There is a clear-cut case for telecom in Africa. And that is where significant investment is already being made by governments and large corporations. So, CITAD, the center embarks on exploring ways to promote development, academic cooperation through agreements within the fields that are mutually acceptable and subject to available resources. And the center will place emphasis on retraining, retooling, entrepreneurship, and re-engineering physical and institutional pillars of learning aimed at localizing the global agenda to stimulate productivity for the advancement of the African region. The center's offering will include, but not limited to, customized clients programs focused on youthful population of Africa. Now, it is critical that I take a small segue and say, we can't do this without the youths. Our youths must get on board. I have been promoting Get on Board, Children of the World, in the past few months. And the United Nations has joined me in bringing this message globally to young people. And I am sharing this to say that the youths are the guarantors of this future we want. So the center has a long list, but not all-inclusive list. And we would look at self-paced demand, remote, instructor-led, and blended certificate programs. We would look at conferences and events. We would customize masterclass certificate programs, collaborate with global academic institutions. Remember, there is a rich pool of experts in the African diaspora. Many of the Africans in the diaspora sit in high places in academia, in corporations. We're going to connect them. This center will be a bridge to make sure that there is a flow of the diaspora's worth into Africa. Joint research and education and academic, conferences, joint conferences and workshops for educators, entrepreneurs in the African region, organization of other academic exchanges agreeable to both institutions. CITADA will look at the model series, that is the personality model series to adapt to the African diaspora talents. And we will bring in faculty and international education exchange programs. All programs offered will include comprehensive and focused education strategy based on the criteria of Gregory University. Colleagues, I can go on because I get excited when I begin to feel Africa in me. Remember, there are more than 140 million Africans in the region that I come from, and we're not connected. 400 years ago, with lightning speed, they went across the Atlantic and brought slaves to the island. Today, there is no flight between Africa and the Caribbean. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine that? So the opportunity is boundless. And I am very pleased. I want to thank Dr. Ada Okika for her inspiration, for encouraging, and for making sure that she invites me and my colleagues from the Caribbean. I'm very pleased to see Dr. Harris, and I'm looking forward to being a witness to the transformative change for advancement in Africa. I thank you very much.
Ambassador Dennis, for that insight, for putting the Citadel mission in the proper context. I must tell you, we are very grateful for that insight. That this is like setting the stage for Citadel at Gregory University. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Dr. Dennis. The next speaker is His Excellency Serene Highness Nicholas. His Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Excellency. I dignitaries, honored guests, each era and each generation develops its way of thinking, transmits it, and this constitutes the characteristic imprints of a community. So everyone must participate in the development of their time, and I thank the United Nations and the organizers of this conference for giving me the opportunity to participate in social progress and to speak on behalf of a community, of a people, of a nation. In our time, the international community is striving for social progress, tolerance, and freedom, seeking greater political unity in what appears to be the dawning of a new era. If today the youth fulfill all the hopes and ideals of peoples. Observers of international society also recognize it. It is therefore in the way with these hopes and ideals, and in a spirit of social justice, that I present myself to you. Because if we are gathered today in assembly, it is ultimately to question ourselves about ourselves, so that each and every one of us resonates truth in our souls and conscience. As I saying, our hopes and ideals is to serve the good cause of university youth, of course, but to the good cause of humanity, in order to sensitize the public opinion on the activities of the intellectuals, and to salute the collective intelligence necessary and vital in our time, when freedom of education prevails over all truths that would prove recalcitrant. This is how the intellectuals of tomorrow will be born, and how the culture and senses of the future will be formed. We are on the cusp of a new era that everyone feels and knows, but that doesn't mean we are all on the same level of equality. We are seeing populations and communities extricate themselves from their nations. We see people abandoning their cultures and their families to the point of abandoning the love of their homeland to take refuge in more developing countries in order to find well-being and access to education, with the sole idea to share their knowledge and earnings with the family who has remained in their home country, who cannot meet basic needs, and who very often don't have access to electricity. However, this human imbalance don't fall within the domain of fatality, but of real awareness. And for this, I would like to salute the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, UNESCO and UNICEF, and the food banks for their effectiveness. I therefore salute the United Nations and the African Union, which dedicate their activities to the noble design of their institutional bodies, so that international cooperation is founded in a new paradigm, or rather an Azure vision of the world, a world more just and equitable, so that Africa and the developing countries can take place in a new world economy. From my perspective, cooperation between African states in a spirit of fairness, benevolence, and peace represents something valued and constructive at the international level, and in which men and women can participate fully in public action and inclusive development work for an overall harmonious organization of human existence. And blessed be the Treaty of Abuja. The African economic organizations are also part of this same momentum, and their implementation demonstrates technological and material capacities, but also the willingness of governments to collaborate and cooperate. When globalization has involuntarily created inequalities and socioeconomic disparities, let us be happy that Africa is open to the world and to new technologies. It is in this spirit of fairness, benevolence, and peace that the blockchain of the nation that I represent was designed, so that its services and tools are used for the benefit of all and for purpose of collaboration with states and international organizations. Indeed, our digital university wishes to contribute to a more alternative vision of students, so as to offer them a range of opportunities regarding to the new professional careers. In the digital world, the Principality has found it necessary to train young people in crypto economy to boost the essential education on global economy systems. Cryptotech Academy offers 3 training models, from beginner to master's degree. In addition, the university opens a bank account to the student to Seborga Digital Bank in order to allow him to capitalize its initial investment. Thus, at the end of training, the university returns all of the capital to the student in order to contribute to the creation of his professional activity. The COVID-19 also makes us realize that digital technology is the new normal in terms of education and economic development. We all know that technology today allows students and teachers to interact remotely, and we must foster this technological momentum in order to train future graduates in the digital economy. So when it's their turn, they can transmit the legacy of this collective work that will survive us. This doesn't mean that a traditional class is not important. Quite the contrary, because it is in these places of study that human relationships are created, the development of social skills, and above all, provide spaces that allow young people to experience a sense of community with all the bonds of friendship and love that schools generate and provide. Now, digital technology is not here to replace the tradition of schools or universities, but here to increase learning opportunities. As such, allow me to underline the importance of the African Union in terms of inclusive economic transformation and sustainable development at a time when the fathers of nations give priority to the development of the continent's human resources, using modern technology to accelerate the progress and development of multi-sectoral projects. In fact, modern technology has the advantage of being able to provide completely new commercial and secure banking services, and also capable of setting up regional production networks or improving them in order to help companies develop and export in sectors that are still too small to participate on their own. Also, and above all, technology promotes the right to education for every children. Whole sections of finance dedicated to education certainly remain to be built, but it is with the spirit of innovation, cooperation, and partnership that we will provide the means to contribute to the challenge of education in Africa. And I join the heads of state and all the ministers of education who are firmly committed to working together. I was not born in Africa also, but I will say that Africa was born in me, the ambassador. Also through CTAD, I have the pleasure and honor to donate a few dozen copies of the wonderful book of His Excellency Ambassador Denis Antoine, entitled Gate on Board, Dear Children of the World, to the library of His Excellency President Olusegun Obasanjo, as well as to the Honorable Minister Chukwumeka Nwajua, here present by the heart with us today, to offer everyone the chance to give a positive meaning to life and its progress, to broaden the field of skills, and to create opportunities for new jobs so that everyone can be recognized in its values and benefits. Such is the objective of the African governments that I support. To conclude, and it's not a dream, this will be the century of Africa's flourishing. Then may the bells of schools and peace ring from the heights of Kilimanjaro and Mount Stanley to Chaparwadi and Mount Grebun, and propagate its echo from Monde Mamel to Ras Dashan in every village, in every hamlet, in every town, and in every state, for to give our children a better world. Thank you.
Your Excellency, for that insight on digital education in a new normal and advancement of development. I want to thank you for that. Very, very critical. That's one of the key elements of CITADA, digital education, because the new normal has made it possible for us to integrate our educational system and to go digital too. So thank you for that insight. Before I invite the Honourable Minister of Education, who is our special guest of honor, I understand he's in the house. Let me, in a very special way, recognize the presence of the former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, PhD, the highly mobile elder statesman, a man of repute. So you are welcome, to this Citadel inaugural launch of Citadel. We are proud of you, sir. So without much ado, can I invite Honorable Minister of State Education, Honorable Chukwemeka Nwajuba, PhD, to give us an insight on education, new normal of education in Nigeria. Honorable Minister, sir. That's His Excellency.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm sorry to be joining late.
Thank you.
The network has been very problematic. I'm not sure whether it's clear now. Good afternoon, everybody. We at the Ministry of Education are trying to keep abreast with all our developments. It's a challenging industry, being a foremost government institution trying to deliver power for the rest of Nigeria. Our work spans on from primary school through to and making that fit into a responsive society for the benefit of all of us. What we do is plan curriculum to fit into what the nation's demand for manpower is expected to be and where we're going with this. Throughout the institutions, cooperating with all the sub-nationals, because the primary education curricula is developed by us but has to be executed by the state governments, because the federal government is not a participant in primary education level. But at the secondary education level, where we are working with the rest of the country to ensure that that level of education takes on what is then agreed at the curriculum. This is the work of what we call the National Council on Education, which meets yearly to review what is available at all facets of our institute. We then estimate that where there are statements as players and as well as federal as players, and that includes the universities, the polytechnics, and the colleges of education. So, in a holistic sense, the Federal Ministry of Education supervises what everybody is doing and regulates it in a way to ensure that we're producing the right kind of manpower. Right now, our challenge is with bringing everybody on stream with TVET. We have said we're now requiring people to be on the TVET platform to be able to incorporate technical skills into what we all do. That is a new force, and today we launched the Nigerian Science and Technology Policy to make education a whole lot more inclusive, so as to be able to deliver value for the workplace. Throughout the week, also we're around the teaching sector, trying to work out ways to improve national perception of teachers, improve their quality delivery. And in fact, the key to quality in the education sector. So in the three broad areas of access, the federal government has been committed to providing range access. Our former president would recall vividly, he put in place the National Open University system so that everybody from everywhere can study. This was almost futuristic in the sense nobody knew that we come to this online study required at this time. So the national universities were actually most prepared than most other nations to be able to take on students and be able to deliver learning. That's what we're trying to replicate with secondary schools and primary schools, where we have asked them to be at the forefront of delivering online content. We have provided a centralized online content where everybody can log in and from the Ministry of Education and then continue from there. The state have done exceedingly well as well with because using their own media, be they terrestrial or radio broadcast, then continue to disseminate it. I'm sure you also aware because the country is a huge country, a lot of rural areas and a lot of urban poor persons delivering content on platforms that are imported, handsets, laptops, radio, everything is dependent on how your prices do or how well those are done. So that even when the content is available, you will need to have a platform to access it. And then power is a change for many families as well, because again, none of this is indigenous to Nigeria. These are imported technology. Everything developing low capacity for that has taken a while, and then we're still not running up to stream. So whether it be the simplest things, batteries at the local governments to just power your radio, you still need to have to import batteries or anything. So really, while we can provide content, there's a lot of challenge with how the society is structured and all things that need to come together or knowledge to take this for each child. But be that as it may, we're attacking the key processes, like I said, of getting access. Access was an issue for a lot of people even before COVID. And unlike days, like I pointed out with what the former president did, was to grant access, whether at tertiary, second, lower level. Expanding access was is actually key to expanding access. But we've also had a lot of developments around fiscal access with a lot of new schools built, new schools. Nigeria has nearly 121,000 primary schools scattered in 36 states and one federal capital territory. And consequentially, the number of people who are in school are actually on the rise. However, we still have a lot of out of school children. Most by United UNICEF standard report at about 10.5 million. We're taking measures with humanitarian ministry to provide alternate systems, which is trying to go and deliver learning at where they are. So whether they are anywhere you access school, physical, whether remote or be it at your point of interaction, will still need to assess quality. So even if you get a problem of access, you need to keep tooling quality. So quality depends largely on the people who teach, who delight, and how the tools are available to them. That's why we're making a lot of effort on improving and reducing our teacher quality. When we came in on this second leg of the administration, we are now ensuring that nobody can be a teacher in Nigeria if it's not registered with the Teacher Education Council. We've updated their curriculum. We are now taking everybody into digital schools to upgrade their knowledge and be able to get everybody running at the speed. That's not been easy because that means a lot of manpower, time being spent on trying to put everybody in the right frame or right shape. However, the COVID also has afforded them an opportunity to upscale learning, and in upscaling the learning to become either digital or they can come digital natives at the moment, but they will want to make digital migrants. As they become a little bit more versed in it, will improve how our children learn. After ability is outcomes. Like I said, part of the reason to incorporate skills and needs acquisition through all of the work schedule schools is because we just looked at our manpower is being like. A lot of graduates find jobs because inadequate preparation going forward, or the base from where they started out. Foundations are weak in some cases and couldn't possibly be directed at this mid or the tertiary level. So you end with graduates that are made not necessarily fit for the modern economy we're driving. So the challenge has been to respond to what issue is, and today I opened the corporate that the Nigerian Economic Group Manufacturers Association of Nigeria and that fund, Tertiary Education Trust, organized with government to have all the three talking to each other on what you would normally call the full helix program. However, that had long begun, and we're just crystallizing some bit now, and gone ahead to launch the skills infusion the methodology we spoke of, and trying to do all of this so that whoever comes out of school is ready to a workplace, and those who are already out of school, who are not fit for purpose, can be refitted with new knowledge. So, like I put out, the challenge is almost because only Nigeria is a vast country. Almost everything that they need is this is Western education, and the rest of the world ahead of us, and we are all playing catch up because we need to buy technology, buy everything from them. And then for 100 million people, the resources are extremely limited. And with monolithic economy, and these up and downs with how the world economy fluctuates, investment in the sector are very limited. Not just for physical infrastructure, but for access to the things that work with it. However, we are confronting all them and looking at them holistically, so we manage our resources the best we can, improve our human capacity delivery, and then be able to use little that is available, expand and reach many people as possible. So we need to commend all past UNICEF, UNESCO, Nigerian private entrepreneurs, because the bulk of our universities now are owned by private persons who are coughing out the resources to run this. So in the secondary school level, as well as in the primary school levels. So a lot of work is being done by Nigerians, and parents alike. Parents generally who took some of it during this period. We've continuously commended them and that they continue to cost, because the job of educating our citizens is not just of the government facilitate, regulates it, but it starts from the home. Whether you are with a lot of knowledge and no attitude, or with a lot of attitude and no knowledge, essentially it would be a function for all of us. And that's why the way we see that the Ministry of Education, and we're able to partner some more with everybody who can and should be participating. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister of State Education, Honorable Barrister Emeka, for that incisive, clear-cut deliverables for Nigeria as Nigeria faces the new normal occasioned by the pandemic in our educational system. Very clear, very unambiguous. Thank you so much for that insight. Before I invite
thank you very much.
Before I invite Dr. Menakaya, may I once again thank His Excellency Ambassador Serene for that wonderful donation you made to Honorable Minister of State for Education, Honorable Emeka Majoba, and President Obasanjo. Of course, after this program, I will reach out to you. I will thank you so much for that donation, His Excellency Serene, Ambassador Serene. The next speaker is Dr. Jide Menakaya. He was speaking on advancing intergenerational discourse on platform for learning in community classroom. Dr. Jide, you have the floor now.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Dr. Uche Menakaya. Jide Menakaya is busy at the moment, unfortunately. So as one of the board members of the Barrister Juni Menakaya Foundation, I'm stepping into standing for him. I bring you greetings from down under Australia, where it's about 2:30 a.m. And I'm glad that I can see so many faces from around the world. In particular, His Excellency, former President of Nigeria, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. Now, it's a pleasure for me to be here today as part of this wonderful initiative with the inaugural launching of CTADA, the Center for Transformative Advancement of Development in Africa. Now, in September 2019, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, called on all sectors to commit to mobilizing for a decade of action on three very important levels: global action to secure greater leadership, more resources, smarter solutions for the advancement of the sustainable goals for development; local actions to embed the needed transitions in policies and budgets, infrastructure, and regulatory frameworks of governments, cities, and local authorities; and of course, people action, including engagement of youth, civil society, and all other stakeholders to generate an unstoppable movement as we move forward. It is in response to this clarion call that the Gregory University, Uturu in Abia State, the Barrister Juni and Irene Menakaya Foundation International, and the Center for SDG Global Education, USA, have come together to establish the CTADA, with the aim of joining the global community to mobilize for a decade of action in generating an unstoppable momentum to achieve these required transformations, especially in emerging and developing countries within Mother Africa. It is important that the advancement of such a transformative agenda in Africa seeks to maintain and improve continuity in our professional development and competency to engage effectively on the global stage in order to generate solutions for the multidimensional challenges that we face. This is especially important in this era of a global pandemic that has ushered in a new normal in global engagement. The CTADA, in responding to United Nations Secretary General's call, will therefore seek global action in partnerships with international agencies and institutions to secure resources, solutions, and improve knowledge and technology to advance sustainability on teaching and learning from grassroots to regional. We also take adequate action on people-oriented issues across all sectors and engagement for regional actions. CTADA will work as an epicenter of professional development to pull these goals into an integrative module offering educational as well as other programs for the purpose of enhancing the transformation and advancement of development in Africa. CTADA will also respond to emerging issues like the current global pandemic, evaluating its impact on the African communities with the aim of developing workable strategies that can and will bridge the gap between the diaspora and Mother Africa, especially in the area of education. These goals are consistent with the vision of the Barrister Juni and Irene Menakaya Foundation International, which my siblings and I set up in honor of our parents. Our parents, following their return from United Kingdom in the early 70s, introduced the first ever formal early learning program for preschool children under the age of 5 in Eastern Nigeria. It was their contribution to efforts to bridge the gap between children in diaspora and African children. Their motto, "My child is my pride," remained a core principle of their professional life up until their death. Hence, a core objective of the Barrister Juni and Irene Menakaya Foundation International is to provide solutions to the educational needs of the less privileged and encourage innovation in community classrooms. Specifically, the foundation will work to improve education, teaching, and learning facilities, providing scholarships and educational support services, building capacity of educators and retired teachers networks, as well as promoting the advancement of quality and inclusive education at all levels in our communities. These principles are even more relevant today, especially in the context of the coronavirus pandemic. Indeed, at the first annual Legacy Lecture of our foundation on the 22nd of August 2020, expressed opinions through presentations and shared conversations, including an excellent presentation by the Honorable Minister of Education, Barrister Chukwuemeka Nwajobi, called for online and remote learning, considerations for poor marginalized communities in any technological development, an education system that must be adaptive to a changing environment and not be business as usual, adequate teacher training, curricula across levels of education must be revised in order to fit into the challenge of COVID pandemic. Of course, upskilling in technology must be affordable, available, accessible, and also acceptable. The lecture also called for greater involvement of parents and inclusive learning with consideration for the use of local language in education. To ascribe to a transformative advancement or development for Africa, we must address the need for a balanced education in its totality. Your Excellency, President Olusegun Obasanjo, the Honorable Minister of State for Education, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Barrister Nwajuba, His Royal Highness, diplomatic ambassadors here present, in particular, Ambassador Dennis Antoine, who dedicated his time and leadership and guided the development and establishment of this initiative. Also, a shout out to Chief Professor Greg Ibe, who shared the vision and brought in the famous Gregory University, Uturu, as part of the CITADA mission for Africa. We are excited that this commitment of shared interest and our partnership in CITADA provides a platform to work towards addressing the challenges of providing quality and inclusive education for our children, ensuring that we bridge the gap of sustainable education in Africa, especially in areas of education in line with the 2030 agenda. Let's all here present lean on the words and opinions of these distinguished guests here today, and in commitment, surrender to step up action together for our continent. Finally, we thank all the excellencies here today, present for the formal launch of CITADA, especially our former president, whose influence in expanding the educational landscape in Nigeria remains a model for emulation for other countries. Thank you so much for listening.
Dr. Jide Menakaya, thank you so much for that insight with respect to advancing intergenerational discourse on platform for learning and community. Thank you. And the legacy of your parents, posterity beckons. Thank you for that, Dr. Chenna. Yeah, we are coming into the high point of this ceremony, of this inaugural launch. We'll be inviting to the man who rose by dint of hard work, a man who believed that education remained the key for sustainable development, and a man who all his life is about investment on education, education, education. And I'm talking of no other person than the Chancellor and the founder of Gregory University, the likable and the personable, reliable, presentable Professor Gregory Ibe. Is going to launch the Center for Transformative Advancement. He's going to have an inaugural speech, a very short speech, concise, straightforward. So let me welcome the one and only Professor Gregory Ibe, OFR. Of course, our President Obasanjo conferred him other did that, and the President is here too. So, Professor Gregory Ibe, you have the floor. Chancellor, founder, Gregory University.
Thank you very much, Professor Noah. My sincere regards to all the excellencies, ambassadors, and indeed my father, President Obasanjo. We're having serious problem of rain here, and the network has been off and on. I welcome everybody to today's event. I'm delighted that the formal launch of the Center for Transformation and Advancement of Development in Africa, CITADA, is domiciled in our university, and that is happening today. I'm also delighted that my father and boss, whom we copy whatever he does, and I do remember that we had to brief him on how, when he wanted to revamp the educational system in Nigeria. I mean, President Obasanjo. So I went with UNESCO to brief him, and then that became presidential initiative that he adopted for the reform of Nigerian educational system. So we thank God that he's today witnessing what he taught us how best to do, working with best practices. I'm also delighted that this center, which has received the blessing of United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, is another milestone recorded by our university and indeed my country, Nigeria. Barely 8 years we were given the nod to start this university. I strongly believe in this maxim that the reward for hard work is to work more harder. Permit me to say here, Your Excellencies and distinguished guests, that COVID-19 pandemic did not affect our academic timetable, as lecturers and scholars alike adjusted using online platforms for learning. As I speak to you now, our school, both the scholars that we call them, they are writing the examination at the same time observing all known protocols. I believe this must have informed the choice of our university to host the center. All through the COVID period, the Office of